Main man here. Y'all know how I get down. We talking boxing, man. So we got a good upcoming fight coming up. Leo Santa Cruz, 32-0, one draw, 18 knockouts versus Carl the Jackal Frampton, 22-0, 14 knockouts. Ladies and gentlemen, this fight is interesting to say the least, man. First and foremost, let's get the 800-pound gorilla out the room. These are both Regal ducks. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. There were more than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 opportunities to fight Regal if they wanted. We know it could have went down. Now, let's strip it down to the truth, though. At that particular time, Regal had an exclusive deal with HBO, ladies and gentlemen. These are the times that all three of these fighters were fighting in the same division. Now we know Santa Cruz has an alliance with Showtime/PBC, and we know Carl Frampton, he's from the UK. That fight could have easily been possible. Rigo wasn't always locked into his HBO contract. He got kicked out just as fast as he got locked into it. They could have made that fight. HBO would have welcomed a Leo Santa Cruz fight, ladies and gentlemen. Make no misunderstandings about it. When these guys go up to the higher weights, then they want to say, oh, I'd love to fight Regan now if he can come on up here to 126, knowing that he can barely make 122. You know what I'm saying? But we're not going to go there right now. But they are both Rigo Duckers. No ifs, ands, or buts about it in my mind, man. You know, when I look at this fight, the first thing that comes to my mind in this fight is that this is an opportunist fight. This is an opportunist fight, ladies and gentlemen. I listened to the words of Carl Frampton, man. Carl Frampton says that the Leo Santa Cruz fight could have went down since 2013 when they were both back down at 122. The fight could have went down then, but they wanted nothing to do with Carl Frampton back then. They didn't feel as though they were willing and ready to fight Carl Frampton until Leo Santa Cruz went up a division, which means, and then take in mind, already took a fight or two at that particular division. And now he's pretty much acclimated to that 126 weight and that 126 power. However, the fight never went down when him and Carl Frampton was down at 122. And then, according to Carl Frampton, once Carl Frampton had that fight against, what's my guy, Alejandro, what was his name? Alejandro Gonzalez Jr. I remember that fight, in which Carl Frampton was knocked down 2 times in the first round. According to Carl Frampton, after that particular fight, which happened about a year ago, that was the one fight that convinced them that they were ready to fight Carl Frampton, because he got knocked down twice by a guy who was taller, who had a lot of good reach on himself, just not nearly as aggressive or as skilled as Leo Santa Cruz. So clearly the Santa Cruz team clearly took a clear advantage of this. You know what I'm saying? This is something that Santa Cruz been doing for quite some time. That is a major difference between him and Carl Frampton. Carl Frampton has been in front of opponents that has different styles, ladies and gentlemen. He's been in there with slick guys, technical guys. He's been in there with brawlers. He's been in there with swarmers, man. You look at the resume of Carl Frampton. When he fought Kiko Martinez in those 2 fights, stopping him in one fight, Kiko Martinez was putting his foot on the gas, and he was letting everything he had out, man. It's just the fact that Carl Frampton fought very well on the back foot, very poised on the back foot, picked his shots very smart and very wisely. He got hit a lot, don't get me wrong. He did get hit a lot. This is what warranted the rematch. But the fact still remains is that he has seen these many different styles, from the styles of Kiko Martinez to the styles of Scott Quigg, a nemesis, a rival of his, if you will. And he put that demon or that ghost behind him. You know what I'm saying? This was very, very, so Carl Frampton has more experience with different styles as opposed to Leo Santa Cruz. He's been in there with the same guy. He's been in there with those one-trick ponies, man. That's all he's been in there with. Flat-footed, come forward guys who's going to try to outbrawl him just as much as he's going to try to outbrawl them. You know what I'm saying? Slick, technical style boxers, it's very rare, if any, is on Leo Santa Cruz's resume. I see none. In my opinion. This is the reason we never got fights of Leo Santa Cruz and Regendow, or Leo Santa Cruz and Gary Russell Jr., a fighter whom Leo Santa Cruz says if he gets through Carl Frampton, he would like to get into the ring with. Now, I used to give Leo Santa Cruz a bunch of shit in my videos about him not fighting my main man, Gary Russell Jr. But then if you take a closer look and given that I am from DC and I do see Gary Russell in the local scene a lot, I see that it's not all Leo Santa Cruz. Gary Russell just has other things going on at this present moment. He's helping his family members out. He's helping his younger brothers out. They're progressing through the Olympics. He has a lot of other things going on in the backdrop right now. And family first is a motto of the Russell family. So those who from this city, you guys know. Gary Russell Jr. is not far from boxing at all. I do plan on his return sometime soon. And I'm hoping he goes straight for Leo Santa Cruz. Because I truly, in my heart of hearts, don't think Leo Santa Cruz can do nothing with that. But that's what makes this fight so intriguing, because in Carl Frampton, this is a guy that presents a different sort of style for Leo Santa Cruz. You know what I'm saying? That he hasn't been in the ring with, because Carl Frampton, I'm planning on him fighting this entire fight on the back foot, ladies and gentlemen. He is going to be backing up. The question is, how slick will he be in this particular fight? Now, I like Leo Santa Cruz, y'all. Don't get it twisted. If he's in there with a high pedigree fighter, it's always a good fight, because Leo Santa Cruz doesn't back down from nobody. He fights aggressive. He fights very well on the inside and the outside. He wears you down with punches. He stands his ground. Typical Mexican fighter. Crappy defense, but the power that Leo Santa Cruz usually possesses, because he usually outweighs a lot of his opponents. He's taller and longer than a lot of his opponents. But the power of Leo Santa Cruz pretty much is his defense. Head movement is shit. He eats a lot of punches. He gets into phone booth fights in which he's always the last man standing. He's a tough kid. He has a very good chin. He has a very good work rate, and he has very good stamina. That's some of the best things about Leo Santa Cruz. So he to me, he's still young, you know what I'm saying? He's only, 27 years old. He's still young. But in this particular fight, and this is the reason I said it's an opportunity fight, he has pretty much all the advantages. And that's what I say about this guy, about this fight. But Carl Frampton has yet to be defeated. He's a unified champion down at the 122-pound division, coming off that big victory, that split decision against Scott Quigg. So he isn't no, bum by far, if you will. And if you guys are worried about the weight, given that this is Carl Frampton's first fight at the 126-pound division, according to Carl Frampton, he's not worried about the weight, because he says, and I quote, Leo Santa Cruz is 3 inches taller, but I don't mind that. It's very rarely that I box someone that is smaller than me, and I think that I will be heavier on fight night. So clearly Carl Frampton is saying he's going to be the heavier fighter. I never usually tripped off weight when it came to the lower weight guys, man, because these dudes are going from 122 to 126. That's just 4 pounds, as opposed to the higher weights who usually go up about, 6 pounds or so? 47 to 50, 60 to 68, that's 8 pounds. So these guys only got to go up 4 pounds. You know what I'm saying? So I never usually tripped off it much with the lower weight guys. That's why I always thought Rigo's excuse of not being able to go to 126 has been suspect to me. I ain't gonna lie to you. It is suspect to me that when I hear Rigondeaux say, hey, I can't make 126, fight me at a catch weight of 124, I look at it and I say, for a guy who's 34, 35 years old, you need to be getting your ass up to 126. But we're not going to go there. We're not going to go there. But then you look on the other side of the aisle. You got Carl Frampton. He's an Irishman. So that means he has fighting in his blood, right? Former unified champion at 122, semi-slick, fights a lot off the back foot, does have pretty decent head movement, does have a pretty decent jab, as well as, that's another thing about Santa Cruz. His jab is definitely the best punch, in my opinion, that he has going. But anyway, Carl Frampton, he can withstand pressure. He's been in there with pressure fighters, and he stood in the pocket with these guys. He's got on his back foot. He showed very, very good ring movement. When he fought Kiko Martinez in that first fight, he killed Kiko Martinez because Kiko was overly aggressive, ladies and gentlemen. He let Kiko eat up a lot of real estate while he was punching, which after about the first, give or take, say 3 rounds, Kiko was kind of pooped and it became more of a technical fight. But when Kiko would try to put the aggression back on, it wasn't the same style of aggression because he spent so much of it at the beginning of the fight. And Carl Frampton just sat back there, man, in a zone, poised, and he withstood that pressure, though he took a lot of big shots. And he cannot take those kind of shots against Leo Santa Cruz. But Carl Frampton, man, good head movement, fights well on the inside, man. He's a good pedigree fighter. And he's coming into this fight, with a full head of steam, coming off a big victory against Scott Quigg. So, these are two good pedigreed fighters. It's just that one has an extra edge. Now, you look at the edges that Leo Santa Cruz has in this fight. He has the height. He's 5'7". Carl Frampton is 5'5". He has the reach. He has a 69-inch reach. Carl Frampton has a 62-inch reach. 7 fucking inches, ladies and gentlemen. And giving up 7 inches of reach to Leo Santa Cruz in the style that he fights can be a problem, man. Can be a serious problem. Oh, man. You think of it, Carl Frampton, this fight is taking place on the East Coast. It's taking place at the Barclays Center. Clearly miles away from the West Coast, where Leo Santa Cruz is basically, his name is big on the West Coast. So clearly, I'm sure Carl Frampton came to the States knowing this, requesting this fight take place on the East Coast instead of the West Coast. Very smart, where there is a major Irish community on the East Coast, especially in that area, ladies and gentlemen. So believe it or not, the crowd is expected to favor Carl Frampton. So a lot of people who thinking that Carl Frampton is coming from Ireland or where he's coming from, and he's coming over the pond and he's going to get caught in the glitz and the glamour, I say no. Because I think the crowd that he fought Scott Quigg against was bigger. It's just that the height over here is bigger. Meaning that all eyes are on you when you fight here. So will Carl Frampton be able to take that sort of pressure? That's a big question. Now, clearly, Leo Santa Cruz is planning to be the same Leo Santa Cruz that we've seen every particular fight. Listening to what he's saying, building up to this fight. And I quote, "I'm going to make him fight me. I'm going to go out there, pressure him so that he will have no choice but to stop and fight with me." Because that's what Carl Frampton does. He's a lot of times on the back foot. He was on the back foot a lot against Scott Quigg. A lot of people said that fight was dull a lot of points of the fight. It was because he stepped back so much, man. Scott Quigg, he was just messing up the measurements of Scott Quigg that entire fight. Quigg was swinging punches. They just wasn't landing shit. Because of the measurements were off, because Carl Frampton constantly is moving and looking to get away from the fight and pick and choose his shots, which was smart. But Leo Santa Cruz is expecting that. He's expecting to do, put on more pressure, as he always does. According to Leo Santa Cruz, and I quote, "They didn't want to take chances." He's speaking about Carl Frampton and Scott Quigg. They didn't want to take chances, and none of them wanted to get caught, but not me. I'm going to go out there, and I'm going to make it a fight. Holy shit. And I quote, "I'm not going to be like Scott Quigg. Scott Quigg wasn't trained as much to come forward, and he was more careful." Very true. He was more on the outside. I think none of them were going to take a risk. Wow. So clearly, Scott Quigg, who came forward with aggression, but it was timid aggression, if you will. When Kiko Martinez came to Carl Frampton with aggression, it was overly aggressive, spending a lot of himself. Carl Frampton being smart enough to know to mix that with making Kiko Martinez eat up a bunch of real estate in the process. So Santa Cruz, the difference between Santa Cruz and those guys, he does come forward. He is trained to come forward. He has a tremendous stamina coming forward. I think Santa Cruz is like one of the top punchers in boxing today, accuracy-wise and punches thrown per round. So can Carl Frampton take that swarming style for 12 fucking rounds, man? 12 fucking rounds of brutal fighting, because that's what Santa Cruz brings to a fight. Now, according to Carl Frampton, and I quote, I think he's overlooking me. The only time he's seen me in the flesh was when I had my worst performance against Alejandro Gonzalez Jr. in Texas a year ago. And he thinks that I'm chinny. I got put down twice in the first round, but I came back to win comfortably, and he's judging me on that performance. According to Carl Frampton, this is when Leo Santa Cruz pursued this fight. Once that Alejandro Gonzalez Jr. fight was over. Once he seen what he had to see. Once he seen Gonzalez Jr. put Frampton down twice in the first round and give Frampton problems throughout the fight. The difference was that Alejandro Gonzalez Jr., his aggression was sporadic. 2 rounds here, 1 round there. Then he gets confused. Then another round here. Leo Santa Cruz's pressure is going to be constant. Extremely constant. He's going to be able to take the punches of Carl Frampton. Frampton has got to get the wind out of Leo Santa Cruz early on. I mean, this is going to be a good fight, man. But, if weight is not going to be much of an issue, and according to Carl Frampton, he feel like he'll be heavier on fight night, that doesn't mean you're still acclimated to your punches as well. Will you gas faster? Will the extra weight slow you down? There's a lot of extra questions that need to be asked when you're putting on weight. But looking at the styles of these fighters, I think Leo Santa Cruz would just chip away. I don't think Carl Frampton will have the power to keep Santa Cruz too honest. And I think Santa Cruz will be typical Santa Cruz. Come forward, chin down, hit, gloves up, working behind the jab. Once he gets close, he will dig. Because that's the good thing about Cruz. He not only fights well from a distance, but he also fights well close quarters. Now, usually when he's brawling and he's slugging, he's fighting close quarters. And another thing about Santa Cruz is that he will refuse to be bullied. Abner Mares tried several times throughout their fight to bully Santa Cruz. And Santa Cruz refused to be bullied. So I don't see Carl Frampton bullying Santa Cruz by far. By far, man. I just don't think Carl Frampton's tough enough to get past Santa Cruz, if more so anything. And I think the style of Santa Cruz will wear Carl Frampton all the way down. And I think he stops Carl Frampton, ladies and gentlemen. A man who's never been stopped, a man who's never lost. I'm jumping on the edge. I give Leo Santa Cruz this fight by knockout, 8th round, ladies and gentlemen. I say 8th round knockout. I think Carl Frampton, running on the back foot, trying to counter in spots, will slow down throughout the fight. If Carl Frampton can be accurate earlier on in the fight and hit Leo Santa Cruz with a lot of accurate shots early on to show Santa Cruz, if you're walking through the front door, you're going to take some licks, if you will. And it's going to take a hell of a lick because Leo Santa Cruz can take a hell of a punch. He took some hard punches from Abner Mares. Hell, he even took some hard punches from Kiko Martinez. And not to mention that Santa Cruz is now coming, his last 2 fights, the Kiko Martinez fight and the Abner Mares fight, I think were his toughest fights to date. And he looked marvelous through both of those opponents. Given that Kiko Martinez had, 5-6 losses when he fought Santa Cruz, though? But still. And he's been in all kind of wars, but still. You know what I'm saying? I like Santa Cruz. I just want Santa Cruz to get in there with the slick fighter, to show me his levels, to show me his pedigree for real. He beat a bunch of Mexican fighters. Al Heyman and the entire team has done very well of protecting Leo Santa Cruz. They've done very well of grooming Leo Santa Cruz, making him a Mexican star also. They've done hats off to them for doing that. But it's time to get that kid in the ring. And I think Gary Russell is the one guy that really confuses Leo Santa Cruz. I think he boxes the shit out of him. But I do think Leo Santa Cruz definitely gives Gary Russell a tough fight. It's going to be similar to what you've seen with Sergio Martinez and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., if you guys remember that fight. I think that's exactly how Leo Santa Cruz and Gary Russell Jr. goes, in my opinion. But it's going to be a good fight. Leo Santa Cruz, Carl Frampton, interesting. 2 prime fighters, 2 young fighters. This is how they're going to sell it. This is not the fight I'm sure a lot of fans may not want to see. You know, some people may even want to see the Oscar Valdez fight or either Lee Selby. It seems as if Carl Frampton already stated that if he gets through Santa Cruz, Lee Selby will be the next fighter that he will look to pivot to. Because they're both, countrymen or some shit? And according to Santa Cruz, if he gets through this fight, he's going to be looking at Oscar Valdez and Gary Russell Jr., with I'm pretty sure Oscar Valdez being number one. Just my opinion. But until the next video, Main Man, Made Man. Don't forget to subscribe. Twitter, Made Man 511. Facebook, Main Man, Made Man. Boxing Forum, Google Plus, Main Man, Made Man. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry. Carl Frampton is a good fighter to my UK and what is he? Irish fans. He's a good fighter. He's nothing. I don't call him a bum by far. I just think that by the jumping weight, the jumping pedigree, Leo Santa Cruz's style, what Carl Frampton brings to the ring as well, I see Leo Santa Cruz having the more superior style. I'm going to bet on the power and the weight and the physical attributes of Leo Santa Cruz over the skill set of Carl Frampton. And that's my prediction, 8-round KO. Well, I will be doing a video on the post-fight video as well, so tune in for that. To the next video. Peace out.